Welcome to Xcelerate with Shawn Redford. The Xcelerate Xcast is designed to provide exterior agents with simple, repeatable, and profitable strategies for you to grow your business. We will share ideas on how to identify ideal target markets and new opportunities, improve your conversations with proven scripts and storytelling, and finally, we'll also meet with industry experts and our partner companies to ensure we're up to date with the newest technology and insights, all so you're able to accelerate your growth. We hope you enjoy Xcelerate with me, your host, Shawn Redford. Thank you for tuning in for today's episode of Xcelerate with Shawn Redford. Today, our guest is Gary Ward, Regional Vice President at AIG Corebridge. Gary spent the last 4 years at AIG Corebridge as an RVP for retirement services. He specializes in helping agents plan and implement tax-favored retirement and estate planning solutions for their clients in the Northeast region. Gary has been in the insurance and financial services industry for over 25 years, holding various roles at both the corporate and field sales level. His experience and understanding will reign through as you hear him talk about AIG Corebridge's QOL product today. That's quality of life, a great product, especially for families on a limited budget who have multiple needs to cover. Thank you again for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy today's episode. And here we are today, everybody, with Gary Ward at Corebridge Financial. Thank you for joining us today, Gary.
My pleasure, Shawn. Thank you for having me.
As usual, what we do is just kind of get to know who is Gary at the beginning of this, who is our provider partner, and look to you for a little bit of experience. And as it pertains today, specifically with critical illness insurance, we are running a campaign right now where we're focusing on critical illness insurance, disability insurance, and ensuring the lives of children. Today, we're going to be talking about some pretty interesting features, or rather benefits, inside the Corebridge lineup. I had the opportunity to get a little sneak peek as we were preparing for this. So I'm looking forward to hearing your insight, Gary.
Well, thanks, Shawn. Looking forward to sharing it. So hopefully everybody will find it interesting. I know
we'll
Shawn
do
and I
our
will
best.
try.
We'll do our best.
We will definitely try.
So, Gary, how long have you been in the industry?
A little bit over 30 years. I came in right out of college.
All right, just like I did. Good. We're both veterans, 29 years for me. And I'm curious, so have you been working all over the States? Are there certain types of agents that you've been working with, different carriers?
Yeah, I primarily came in, spent the first half of my career as an agent and an advisor. Primarily I am in the Northeast corridor between, most of the time is working within New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey. Really came in early on, and one of the things that attracted me about the industry is just the financial planning aspect of that, and really kind of got into that whole holistic approach, understanding the client and then helping them out, and then eventually transitioned more into a wholesale avenue, just because I spent so much time just on the retail side, the managerial side, and spent quite a bit of time actually on the training side, that there was a lot of information, and I'm a very practical person. I definitely don't want to be a teacher. I'd rather kind of help people implement solutions that change things rather than just share educational information. So, I think we're all pragmatists when we get into sales. Right. It's like,
We're beating over the head with it, Gary. Absolutely. Well, so I'm curious, I've had a very similar path, and it's often been said that the teacher becomes the student. And I've learned probably more from the agents that I've worked with over the years than any of the books, courses, et cetera, that I've taken. I love to take the scripts and the prospecting strategies. And I guess as it pertains to CI, what are some of the things that you've heard from agents that really stand out and resonate with you?
Yeah, I mean, when we look at just critical illness, I think that kind of opened up the door to living benefits. And for the longest time, if Shawn, remember, we came into the industry, and life insurance always had this stigma, and still does. And the stigma was, oh, this is a mature industry, which it is, and it's a little boring, and it's really not for the client. It's for obviously the client's beneficiaries, right?
Mm.
So, like anything, people want one product that does multiple things, right? And I always refer to life insurance as kind of the Swiss Army knife of products. And part of that is actually creating messaging, whether it's on the marketing side, definitely when we're in front of the client and presenting it that way, saying you have multiple needs. What if we can solve more than one need with one solution? Wouldn't that, does that make sense? Logistically, economically. And so when the living benefits and the first piece, really critical illness, came in, that was kind of building out another blade into that knife, right? Or another function to that Swiss Army knife. And I kind of liked it. And I still think the message is not that widely communicated to the general public. And some could argue to the agent and financial advisor population.
Yeah, well, especially, I mean, in the independent agent space, when you've got the plethora of carriers to choose from, not to mention all the products under each of those carriers, it becomes really hard to kind of narrow your focus and choose which ones to partner with. And that's why oftentimes, and why we highlight our carrier partners and specifically the individuals that support us, like a Gary Ward. That's why we do these highlights, because that really does make a big difference when you can find somebody that's willing to partner with you, to support you, to mentor you, or at least keep you motivated every once in a while, and give you ideas that can generate revenue or save you time. Like, this is where what I think separates one wholesaler from another. It's like, how are you helping me in my business? I don't need you to educate me on a product necessarily, but tell me how my product is going to benefit my target market, or how can I get into a target market using your product, right?
Yeah, Shawn, those are excellent points, and that's one of the first things that I lead with, right? Like anything, when we meet with a client looks at us and goes, "What's different from you than everybody else?" Right? So, what's your value offering? And from a wholesaler perspective, I always say, when I speak to new agents and advisors, I go, "You guys are very bright. You can figure the products out. I can give you some shortcuts, but let me tell you the value that I bring." Is I can help you identify clients and open cases that you are not comfortable yet doing. And more importantly, what I want to do is I want to teach you a process that can be replicated and scaled up, right? And I make a joke. I said, my job is to make myself useless. That if I could teach you how to fish, right? Uh, and not just catch it for you. I love catching it for you, but I think we're all better off when we have more lines in the water than just one, right? Uh,
Absolutely.
if I could teach you how to fish and kind of open that up, I think I'll get you a little bit excited. And more importantly, it will be a mutual kind of win for both yourself, myself, and the client. And I kind of look at that three-legged stool,
Hmm.
right, as something that was taught to me years ago. You always, you evaluate your decision making on, will it benefit the company, will it benefit the advisor, will it benefit the client, right? We don't want a zero sum game.
No.
We want everybody to win. If one leg is not benefiting, then the stool collapses, right?
Yeah.
It could help me, it could help you, but if it's not helping the client, maybe we should rethink that and try a different approach.
Absolutely. So, we at Experior, we have a very diverse group of agents, whether it's geography, ethnicity, but also when it comes to how much time they're working in the business. Many of them are working part time. Obviously, many are working full time as well. I mean,
Sure.
to get into that critical illness space, what would you tell? Let's start with a part time agent. Like, how would
Yeah.
you advise a part time agent to get into that critical, like to focus on the critical illness insurance space?
Yeah. Great question. I always kind of coach agents like this. We sell intangibles, right? And it's very hard to sell an intangible rather than a tangible because we really can't point or demonstrate something. So our language is critical. How we paint that mental picture in our client slash prospect's head determines our success. And so what we have to do is use the right approach in language. And to Shawn, to your point, like I said, I probably spend the least amount of my time talking about the product, whether that's to an agent or to a client. Our products are really solutions, right? So part of it is understanding the client, right? Understanding our market, right? Understanding our message, make sure they're aligned, and then helping the agent actually kind of craft that. And we actually have a ton of material that helps them do that, right? So it's not just I'm not giving you a script. I've memorized, like yourself, I've done many scripts. I like talking points.
Yeah.
I like inserting personality and style into that, right? And I think that's really important. I think most of the agents I come across feel the same way, because if I handed somebody an experienced agent a script, I think they would laugh or burn it up or do both and walk away. So I can't remember the last time I've used, but I said, I'd like to give you my approach. Let me demonstrate how I've done this. And then more importantly, let me give you some talking points and materials. And when I say that, I don't think brochures sell our products, because I tell this to a lot of new advisors. If brochures sell our products, you and I would be unemployed. People would buy directly. So please, a lot of times our brochures actually work in detriment to what we're trying to do. They confuse,
Yeah.
right? So use talking points, use some aids, right? Let me show you how it's done. I don't want to tell you. Nobody likes being told what to do. I certainly don't. But I'd like you to show me, right? The whole YouTube generation, kind of what we're doing right now, right? Right? Like, I don't know how to change my brakes, but I'm gonna replace the brake pad, but I'm gonna watch a YouTube video on my make and model, and I'm gonna say, okay, let me see if I can do that. And it's very
Absolutely.
true. It's very true. So I do subscribe to that.
Yeah, and I would agree with everything you said. I mean, whether you're part-time, full-time, coordinating your messaging with your market, using tools, visuals, these are all important things. I think for part-time individuals, one of the things, and this is new to me, I really haven't worked a lot with part-time individuals in my career, but I'm doing so a lot more now. And one of the things that really dawns on me with people that are doing this part-time is, well, why are they doing it part-time? They're either doing it part-time because they want to generate some additional income, or arguably they're passionate about why it is that they're doing this. One of those two things, right? I think has got to resonate as much, if not more, than with a full-time individual. This is their job, this is their career, and hopefully the reason they got into this is because they're passionate about doing it and they like to make the income. But to do this part-time, to take time away from your family, from whatever your other interests are, to do this, to me, means you're either really passionate about it or you need the income. And I think that's an interesting way to talk about living benefits, because that's really what they're designed to do, right? Is to help replace that income should you need it. Obviously, if you're working part-time and you're generating this additional income, you're probably not sitting on millions of dollars that don't require that you work. So the importance and the value of generating regular income or having access to capital when you need it is really important. And I was just curious, and again, I'm thinking out loud and seeing if you have any experience working with part-time people, because I'm trying to figure out, is there a spin? Is there another opportunity for these part-time individuals to talk to families about incorporating these benefits because they can relate on a different level than, say, somebody that's in this full-time?
Yeah, Shawn, I have the same experience. I really started working with part-time groups at the beginning of this year. Um, and I would offer this advice as I'm working more and more with them. You have a limited amount of time to work in this business, and it takes a while to really get up and running and competent, right? And I speak with a lot of part-time agents who are not confident in their sales process, or they really don't have a process. After they've exhausted their friends and family, that's when it gets scary. And that's true with people that are full time.
Yep.
And that's where you need a process. And a process is how do you do that? Now, I give kudos to Xperia. I was looking at some of the stuff you guys had on your website is around sales training and process and handling objections. And I think that's good. And I think you need to read that, but you can't learn this business from a book. You have to actually experience. These are skills-based things. So here's the thing. My advice for part-time. I think you have to find a very narrow niche, right? And get good at it, right? Because like I said, this is experiential.
Yes.
It's not academic, right? I don't care how many times you read a book on how to be a Major League Baseball player or any of that. If you don't have the skills to actually execute, it's just not going to happen, right? So you can read all the books you want on sales, but you've got to have those skills.
Absolutely.
And these are motor skills, right? These aren't academia skills. You got to actually swing the bat 1,000 times, right? And even then, it's not there. So focus on a niche that you like. Focus on a market that you really have a presence in, and it's got to be genuine, right? It's got to be, to your point, Shawn. They have a passion of doing this, right? We all want to make more money, okay? But let's put money aside for a second, okay? Let's find an area that you are genuine, that when you approach people, they can see that you have their best interest in heart, because maybe something happened to a member of their family. Maybe you relate so much. Maybe you actually empathize a lot because you're identical to these people. And the great thing about that is that you build instant rapport, right? And you have to build trust, right? And trust is hard. I have not found any instant way of creating trust. I have not found any language or technique besides really just doing what you say you're going to do, right? Being
Good
reliable,
start.
competent, right? Yeah, just kind of the things we learn in kindergarten from our parents, right? Nothing too academic. So pick an area, focus on that, and actually and really advertise that. Say, hey, listen, I am a living benefits expert. You don't know what living benefits are? Well, I'll tell you what. Let me tell you what that is. And then all of a sudden, you get very good at that track, and then you get better and better and better, and you scale up. And you know what? That may be the one segment that really kind of launches you. And then when you recruit new people, if you are building some downlines in a unit, you can say, hey, this is my specialty. And when I started, here's my pet, right? So like anything, there's an old expression: if you have a problem, make it a process, right? So I do see a lot of advisors who are just struggling because they have not figured out the processes, right? Let's create processes for things. Let's make sure they work, because a lot of times we create a process and they fail. So we go back to the drawing board and we create a new process, right?
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
okay. I've done that hundreds of times. And obviously that's not something I like to advertise, right? I wish I could say I was smart enough I created the process the first time. But we do have to realize when we need to pull the plug on something, right? Or probably here's what most of us do, right? This is why we go to meetings and conventions. We have these. Let's see if we can share best practices. Let's look at somebody that's successful, and there's talent, skills, right, and a process, right? Can't teach talent, right? Skills take time, but a process, well, that's transferable. Okay. Let's please, Shawn, tell me your process. I'll share my process, and then maybe we can craft something. So I would give my advice is find processes that work, stick with them, refine them, and hopefully that will actually ease really some anxiety and tension. And more importantly, it will be successful, because I think the best motivation is success. Failure does not motivate a lot of people. I know we like to talk about and use platitudes, but when you're successful, you get motivated and you want to do more. When you fail, you got to pick yourself up and try again. It takes a little bit more energy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love what you were saying there, Gary, about picking your niche, like whatever it's going to be. And I think, whoever you are, you need to identify who is your ideal client, and you need to try and cater to them for so many reasons. But I think the best reason is, to another point you made, you're eventually going to run out of your friends and family, eventually, right?
Yes, we all
So,
do.
so you could really benefit from your friends and family becoming advocates for you and helping you identify or get in front of your ideal clients. But you got to make it easy for them. You got to make it easy so that they understand who your ideal client is, how you're going to help them, and make it easy so that it's not uncomfortable. It doesn't feel, awkward for them to transfer that rapport onto somebody that they care about, right? So,
Yeah.
there are these three pillars I recall when it comes to choosing your ideal client, and you kind of highlighted them. You need to have access to that market, right? You can't pick your ideal client as, say, dentists if you have no access to dentists. Why would you choose them? So you need to have access to them. You need to have an affinity for that market, meaning some commonality, something. Either if it's not a passion, it's just maybe you understand the restaurant business. You worked in the restaurant business, so you have an affinity for restaurant owners. So now you could talk to a restaurant owner differently than Gary or Shawn could, because we haven't worked in restaurants. We've been in financial services for the last 30 years.
Yeah.
And then the other one is potential. Is there potential for you to get business out of this? Is it going to be profitable business? So I think if you can identify a client that offers you those three things and hopefully be passionate about it, then I think the success will come. But I absolutely agree with you when it comes to process. The last thing I'm going to say before I start asking you some questions about Corebridge is I've coined and trademarked actually an acronym for what I believe are the 4 traits that ideal advisors, agents have in commonality. And it doesn't matter where you're from, Canada, US, doesn't matter. And the acronym is HELP. So
Okay.
you can borrow this, but I've
Okay.
trademarked it, so you can't steal it. All right. So HELP stands for heart, having
Okay.
heart, passion for what it is that you're doing it. A lot of people call it their why, their purpose. E
Yeah.
is for educate. You want to build rapport with a client. I think educate them, inform them so that they don't feel like they're being sold to. It's just the product ends up being the solution at the end of the discovery process, right? The L stands for listening. They want to feel like they're heard and understood, and that you actually care about what they're saying. Don't interrupt them when they're talking. And then finally, P is for process. I agree with you wholeheartedly. All the best agents I've ever worked with have a process for everything. Onboarding a new client, asking for introductions to individuals, follow-up, meeting follow-ups. Everything is a process so that nothing can go unchecked and everything is perfect or constantly improving, right?
Yes. Absolutely. I will say I've met a few people that are just extremely talented, and I envy them, right? Who
Yeah.
can literally, naturally wing things, build instant rapport, outgoing. And here's the thing, I just, yeah, like I said, I envy them. You just can't replicate that. So the rest of us have to use a process, just because it's like, yeah, I love what you do, and I just can't do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So as you were talking, and it's funny, I had no inclination to talk about part-timers today, but as you were talking, I was thinking, man, the product at Corebridge really, because of how all-encompassing it is, it might be great for that part-time market. We're going to talk about it in more detail. Obviously, it's great for the full-time market as well, the full-time agents that are out there too. But I was just thinking, because of something you said earlier on, you don't have a lot of time. If you're a part-time agent, how many meetings can you go back to that client for to talk about this product, that product, et cetera, right? So, as we get into the Corebridge product and offering, especially the unique aspects of it, for those of you that are listening in and or watching, and you're part-time, I want you to think about this product a little more closely than maybe I would otherwise recommend, because I do think just hearing Gary talk today, I think there's a bigger opportunity here for you. So anyway, on that note, Gary, tell me, before we talk about the product offering, let's talk a little bit about Corebridge. What can you
Sure.
tell us about Corebridge?
Yeah, there seems to be there's still some confusion what Corebridge is, right? Is it AIG? Is it Corebridge? So AIG has been around for over 100 years, and AIG was a multi-line insurance company, right? In the basic forms, it was property and casualty, life and annuity, and really we made the decision almost about 2 years ago to actually cut the company in half. Okay. It took almost like 18 months to do this process because it was a slow process. And let's separate property and casualty from life and annuity, right? So we did that almost a year ago, September 15th. We separated the company, right? Where we had the life and annuity become Corebridge Financial, and the property and casualty retain the name of AIG, right?
Okay.
So I always tell from a client perspective, the client asks, who's Corebridge Financial? It's going to take a couple of years of us advertising and branding, which we are doing. And we're doing it at obviously the consumer level through all forms of media, golf sponsorships, sporting sponsorships, as well as through the internet and publications, right? And really, it is the same company, just separate. Why did we do this? Well, we found a lot of insurance companies, instead of really focusing on those lines being separated and distinct, and actually, a couple of our predecessors did that, such as MetLife and AXA, where AXA, the most recent one, went back to their roots, and then they formed Equitable, which was the company they acquired many years ago, moved them down to Charlotte, and became Equitable Life again.
Yeah.
And so Corebridge is a new name because we've always had AIG. All the policies are the same. The ratings are the same. The products are the same. We're a small company of 8,000 employees and $400 billion of assets, right? Because literally we did cut the company in half. And so what we're hoping is that as we get more specialized and we're not subject to maybe some parent supervision, we're going to be a lot more innovative because our products have really been our strength so far, right? And we definitely have our weaknesses. So we're not going to hide for that, and we're continuing to improve that. But our products speak very highly, and I know a lot of people love the name AIG, and I understand that. It's going to take some time. Yeah, the name Corebridge Financial, it's going to take some time to sit. But think of the insurance companies that changed, like Voya, right? Where did Voya come from?
I've
Right?
worked for a couple of them that have gone through it. It's not going to be the last time for sure.
Exactly. So I would say just give us some time. Once your client, it's more important that our clients are comfortable than us, right? But I would tell you in the meantime, as I tell most advisors, tell them it's AIG Corebridge. They still own the majority of us. We are a publicly traded company. They will sell off most of their shares and fall below the majority. We are not owned by anybody.
Yeah.
We are an independent company on the New York Stock Exchange. You can buy our stock at CRBG. You can check us out. There's not a puppet master behind this. So like I said, we really look forward to developing it. But thank you for asking, Shawn.
Yeah, excellent. Well, what is interesting about this product, as we were saying, is that it's a bundled solution. Basically, you're getting an all-in-one type of offering, and I think that's really unique in the industry. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about how it works and how our
Sure.
agents can be positioning both the combination of life insurance and living benefits. Again, for our audience, this is a critical illness marketing campaign program, but with a spin.
True. Yeah. Critical illness is one of the 3 living benefits that is bundled, right? That is included in all our products. In Corebridge, we have a specific line of products called Quality of Life, QOL, and then we have our brokerage products. So Xperia is part of the QOL product line. And you're saying, well, how does that work? Well, we selectively use groups to market this product. Some of the bigger institutions want to use these products. We don't allow them to. we really want more of a career force using this product. It has the same names, except that the products have the same names, but you want to make sure it says QOL. And a lot of times you may be in competition with another distributor that's using the Corebridge product, and you want to
Mhm.
ask them as a QOL, and they may look at you funny, and that's a good thing, because
Yeah.
here's how you're going to explain it. So quality of life is built in living benefits. So as we're talking about critical illness, right? And like I said, first time I was exposed to critical illness was obviously through some of these voluntary benefits, group benefits, and we all know the whole duck story, right?
Yeah.
Right, which is very cute, which was a small company that really kind of skyrocketed due to great advertising and marketing, right? It really just shows you the right message done well uh, can do wonders at a very high scale, right, on a
Mhm.
national level. So that's what I mean. Pick your niche, pick your story. So here's our story that hopefully you guys will use, benefit, craft, and personalize. Is all our products, term, universal, and our universal life products have built-in living benefits. We have the critical illness benefits, but we also have chronic and terminal. They are priced into the products. Um, what is even more amazing, as other carriers have done that, is we're probably one of the only companies that does not underwrite for that. So, literally, if you can qualify for life insurance, just life insurance, right? You can be highly rated, because some carriers say if you're rated below a certain table, D seems to be the line, they're not gonna offer that, and that's very typical. You can be rated, as I mentioned to Shawn before. You can be rated at the lowest table or the highest table, meaning that you can be at one step above uninsurable, like say a table H. We will not change any of those living benefits that we included. We'll treat you like your preferred plus. Your premium, of course, will be much different than preferred plus,
Yeah.
but but if you did have a critical illness, if you did have that heart attack, stroke, cancer, or you had a terminal illness, or you actually had a chronic illness for long-term care, you would have access to that full benefit, up to $2 million.
That
And
really is
and
incredible. I mean, the top two reasons I always hear agents telling me for why they don't sell more critical illness insurance are it's too expensive and nobody qualifies for it, because you have to be
yeah,
healthy to qualify for critical illness insurance. So what you're saying is not only are you not paying for it, it's included as part of the premium, but at the same time, you're automatically approved as long as you qualified for the life insurance. So
that's
you've
correct.
overcome those two objections with one product.
Yeah, to me, I was a little amazed. We had an actuary many years ago who really had that forward-thinking mentality and said, what if we built a separate product line? And he kind of pursued that, and we kept it very quiet. We really did. And then kind of built it in. And now, as we're distributing these products to certain groups, we want to use a very personalized approach, not a big brokerage approach. That's why we limit that. But part of it is our fault. And I appreciate Shawn having me on. Is crafting the story to use, right? Because stories sell,
Mhm.
right? And and like we all relate better to a story, right? We need, like I said, we're pragmatists, right? Yes, it's got this or that, but how does that help me, benefit me? I need you to break it down in the most simplest common denominator terms. And guys, like I said, when I read articles about technical things, I was like, well, give me an example.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it now, right? And an example is a story, right? So from the critical illness, from the living benefits. I know there's a lot of agents that have grasped this and used this, and I think it's terrific. And if you're really looking for something that's kind of unique, we actually have client testimonials of people that went on claim on our
Oh.
website, and these are real. We don't pay them. They are very happy that their agent sold them a policy that had these benefits included. And then when they had this claim and they said, oh my God, how am I going to cover this? They got a pleasant surprise.
Wow. You're right, absolutely right. And for everybody that's tuned in to this one, Stories have been the ongoing message from all of our partners that have come on here. How do you sell critical illness and disability insurance in particular? Stories, mainly because people can't relate
Yeah.
to the benefit. They understand death and they understand life insurance. It's pretty straightforward, but they don't know how they would utilize cash as a living benefit. Like, what are the reasons for that cash? How would they employ it? How could it improve their life or their recovery by having access to that capital? So, on that note, how would they get access to this capital in a QOL product?
Yeah, they would simply submit a claim form. Um, Most of the time, we pay a lump sum. Um, and honestly, it's the benefit is determined based on the severity of that, right? So I always, cancer, we have stage 1 to 4, right? Sometimes somebody has, fortunately, a stage 1 cancer. It doesn't impact their mortality. They get a very living benefit, and they can turn that down. So if
Yeah,
we make an offer and and it's a small amount, and they go, "Wow, how come I'm getting?" Well, to be honest with you, the good news is that it's not going to impact your mortality. Well, but
yeah,
you're only giving me a fraction of that. Well, the good news is just say no, because you can reclaim that at a later point or use that for a different illness or another. Remember, there's 3 living benefits built in, right?
right.
Critical, chronic, and terminal. So you can turn that down, or you can take a lump sum, or you can maybe do a combination where you take a partial lump sum and keep the insurance in force. So we give you all those options. The nice thing about this is that your doctor really determines this. So we go out to your doctor. Let's say it's a critical illness. Let's say you had a heart attack, right? And we all know there's all different levels, right?
Mhm.
There could be minor ones. It could be just a blockage with angioplasty, or it could be a triple bypass.
Yeah,
There's a big difference.
sure.
So the unfortunate thing is, the more severe, the more money we're going to give you, right? So you can determine whether that's good or bad, and then you can make that. And of course, that goes in front of our medical director. And of course, if we can't agree, we ask you to get a second opinion. But the nice thing about it is we go to the client's physicians.
Mhm.
We have them actually fill out the claim form and tell us about the severity of this and send that into our medical directors and do that. So there's no chart. So I will tell you this. There are some carriers that we all like numbers that say, hey, if you have a critical illness, you'll get this, this, and this. I've seen those. Those are very misleading because there's just too many variables. There's
Mhm.
it's And so I always tell a client, if they ask me that, I said any number I give to you is going to be wrong, because I have no idea what age you're going to be, how severe it is going to be, and what's going to happen, right? And we can make a list like underwriting of a million types of ailments that you can claim on, right?
Yeah,
And I am certainly not a physician or anything close to it. So any number I give to you as an advisor, I am just making up, and I don't like to do that when I don't have
yeah,
to do that.
yeah.
But I would say this, is that the nice thing about these living benefits is they are becoming more prevalent in the industry, with the carriers, right? We just need to educate our sales force, right? Our advisors, and have them kind of bring that out, because they are really great things. And I say that because I'm a big believer, because when I started in the business, and Shawn was probably the same, this never existed. This
Oh,
was
no.
not an option. And so I find so many clients that have existing policies, and they go, well, why should I change? I'm going to give you a big reason why. And are you, they're like, are you making up a story? Is this real? And I go, I can show you the contract. You can read it. This is, and I'm like, well, I never heard of this. I go, yes, yes. And I go, that's a typical response, but don't let that stop you from obviously getting into it. And then Shawn, to your point, well, can I qualify for it? Well, is it too expensive? Well, how about if I told you it's built in and we won't underwrite for it? You still got to qualify for the life insurance, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So to your point, we removed the 2 biggest obstacles, right? And
Mhm.
saying like, all right, you guys, and more importantly, right, life insurance. This gets back to our initial conversation. Life insurance now becomes a benefit for me, the insured, not only my beneficiaries, right?
Yeah,
Which is kind of cool, right? And now we talk about that Swiss Army knife. Now we've got like 4 benefits, right? We got terminal, CI, chronic, and a death benefit with one product, with one price. Okay, now all of a sudden you're making an old, boring, stodgy product seem a little bit more attractive to a younger crowd, right?
Yeah, I love that you give options, whether it's a lump sum payment or you want to retain a portion of it. Um, the other interesting thing that you said that I always love to hear from a client is nobody's ever told me that before. I feel like they've just teed that ball up on the tee and I can just let it rip, because that's when I want to say, I don't say this, but that's when I want to say, well, it's because I wasn't your advisor. That's why I'm here.
That's a
That's my
great line.
job, is to inform you about these things. But I think anytime you can go in and have a conversation with an individual that they haven't had before, you're adding value. And I think that makes that engagement memorable. And I think that's what you should be striving for every time you meet with a client, is to create a memorable experience. Because if you can do that, now they're going to talk to people about it. They're going to talk to their friends and family about it. Are they going to talk to their friends and family about buying a T10 policy or an IUL? Probably not. But they might talk about a policy that has all of these other benefits. If somebody were to say, so-and-so just got sick with an illness or a chronic impairment or whatever it happens to be, then they might say, hey, I just bought a policy that allows there to be coverage for that. That's, I think, how you get some engagement and, again, add value. I do want to hear about how it might be different with the chronic illnesses from a critical illness. How
Sure.
are those payouts determined?
Yeah, I've never been a big proponent of what we call traditional long-term care. I really, the problem with traditional long-term care is the rates keep going up tremendously, and it's use it or lose it. So we may have people that buy these traditional long-term care policies early on, let's say 40s, 50. They're responsible people. They pay into them for so many years, and then when they're in their when they need it the most, the rates have gone up so much they drop the policy because they can't afford it. And I'm like, oh my God, this is a terrible design. And most carriers that started that, and I remember John Hancock was the first, and they dove head first into this, and they completely disrupted their sales force. And I'm like, well, what is going on? Because at that point I was still an agent. I'm like, if you worked for John Hancock, you only had to sell long-term care. I'm like, yeah, I mean, these guys are going way too deep, too fast, and it kind of blew up on them. So the traditional design was not that great. The hybrid model now, which is more prevalent, which I'm a big fan of that, where we guarantee the rates and it's not use it or lose it, right? So if we have a long-term care benefit built into a life insurance contract and the person never needs it, they still get that benefit paid out as a death benefit, right?
Yeah.
If they need some of it, they get that paid out, right? What for long-term care needs, and if they don't use it, the remainder gets paid out. Those are terrific. But I want to take this to another level. Long-term care is difficult to qualify. It is health insurance.
Yeah.
And the hybrid models are much better because they're not use it or lose it, and we guarantee it, but you still have to have the health. Mm-hmm. What if we can keep that and remove the health obstacle? And that's really what we've done with the QOL product line. So the chronic illness is a nice word for long-term care. The only difference is most long-term care policies pay out a monthly and there's a pool limit, right?
Right.
With ours, it is more of a lump sum. It is still generated to you income tax free. Okay. But then you manage that. So it's not exactly the same. But in addition to that, if you want that feature, we actually have a rider called the AAS, which you actually can put on our permanent products. It can't go on term. It can only go on IUL or GUL. Okay. And it will pay out dollar for dollar from the death benefit. So if you've had $1 million, we will actually pay that out up to monthly installments, annual amounts. You do have to be underwritten for that rider. That rider, is an additional premium. You can add it, but what I tell a lot of people is nice is you automatically have the built-in one, and then you can, if you can qualify, we can put the AAS on, right? And I will tell you, in our non-QOL products, That is the most popular rider because our non-QOL, what I'll call our brokerage products, they put that, almost everybody wants that AAS rider, but unfortunately, clients will qualify for the life insurance and will be declined that AAS and not have living benefits. If that happens with QOL, you have a plan B. You have the built-in one. What's the difference? Well, the built-in one is determined on the illness, your age, and all that. And you may say, Gary, well, I don't really like the insurance company telling me in the future what it's going to be. And you know what? I don't disagree with you. I wanted to find definitive benefit. I said, all right, let's put the AAS rider on, where once we get you underwritten for that and you're approved, they're out of the picture. You now have a dollar for dollar offset, and you can basically draw that down. So if you had $1 million policy and you have an AAS rider, you have $1 million worth of benefits for long-term care. And once again, if you don't use it, whatever you left over gets paid out as a death benefit.
I think it's great. And if you've got the resources and the health, then sure, add the additional coverage. But I think the opportunity here is for our agents to bear in mind that for those people that don't have the disposable dollars, or maybe they don't have the morbidity health, then they should absolutely be looking at this product to provide more risk protection than the client would otherwise get elsewhere. And sure, we don't know, there's no definitive benefit that can be paid, that can be told to the client today that will be paid in the future if something happens, but at least the expectation is that there will be something, and without having to qualify for it.
Totally agree, Shawn. And I throw this out to a lot of advisors. If you are working in a certain marketplace where the client knows they need long-term care and they can't afford it, or the client really doesn't have the health for it, remember, this is built into the term product. I would tell you, I have a lot of agents that will only sell our term product for a lot of reasons. One is the built-in benefits. Two is the no underwriting. Three, more importantly, if there is no conversion restrictions, you just have to be under 70. There's no conversion products available. So literally what you can do for a client, and the fourth reason, it's dirt cheap. We sell a lot of term. We really do. And we're a big term seller as well as IUL, and we try to be in the top 5. I tell every agent this, and Shawn, this may be a facial expression. We don't want to be number 1 in any product category. Can I tell you why? These are long-term products, right? The shortest duration for term is 10 years IUL. If I'm number 1 today, what happens next year and the year after and the year after? I can't be number 1 forever. We want to be in the top 3. So we don't want to spend that extra money just to say, hey guys, we're number 1. And then the next competitor comes in next week and kind of knocks us off. We want to be a little bit more prudent. These are long-term products, right? We want to be highly competitive, benefit rich, and obviously give you guys a unique value proposition to go out to the marketplace. And more importantly, I think, like for the underserved marketplace, like the middle, kind of middle class and below, where they go, yeah, all these products are great, but I don't have the means for that. Well, that's really, our term insurance has those built in, right? And so the only thing I would implore you to do, because we know term is temporary, if you do use term insurance, try to get the longest duration possible if they're buying it for the living benefits, which they should, right? Because most of these living benefits, the claims occur later in life. So that 10-year thing, get to 30 or 35. Get the long, you can always drop it. But if you get to 10, you can't come back to us and say, I need to extend it. You can take the 30, drop it when you want, right? And I say that from a consumer standpoint, because once again, I do think that if you're selling this to a certain marketplace where, they're very price conscious, and that's why term is there, have that deeper conversation with them and saying, I really want you to benefit from this policy, meaning I want them to pay you something. I don't want you to outlive the policy, right? So that means you've paid in for decades, and the insurance company kept that, and still receive the protection, but what about a living benefit, right? What about a critical illness that you can cash in? And more importantly, right, long-term care can really bankrupt a lot of people, right? And I really look at a long-term care policy in a different. I've actually sold it as asset protection.
Mhm.
It is an asset protection. Do you want to keep your house?
Yeah.
Do you want to keep your retirement accounts? Do you want to keep your standard of living? So let's look at what the average cost of long-term care is in your zip code. Do you have the means to cover that if something happened? If not, let's find an affordable way of protecting that, right? Just like people say, and Shawn, this goes back to your DI one. People, I always ask a client, what is your most valuable asset? I typically get one or two answers. They say my home or their retirement account.
Yeah.
And depending on their age, I go, there's one that's even more. It's your income. It's your ability to earn income. Your income, if you look at that potential, is so if you insure your home, do you insure your income? And we don't sell disability insurance, but I am a big advocate of it because I think it is your most valuable asset. And I think you have to protect your biggest assets first, right? Before we kind of go up the scale. So, as Shawn goes through these series, I would tell you, I would, life insurance, you have the highest probability of happening first. Disability is second. I think you need life and DI first. I love critical, right? I like the terminal and the chronic, but you got to get your life and disability. You got it first, and then we can move on to the other ones. But if we have these built in, and unfortunately, guys, I'm sorry, we don't have disability insurance built into any of our products, but maybe some carrier I'm sure will come out with something innovative and do that.
Yeah. You heard it here first, everybody. Gary said disability insurance and life insurance. We need to be talking to our clients about that. Excellent. Thanks for that plug there, Gary. What does AAS stand for?
Yeah, accelerated access solution. And, I think insurance companies are great. I think insurance companies are like craft breweries. They make up all these names. You try to get a beer and I can't pronounce what silly name you guys have. I'll take that one over there. So an AAS really is a long-term care, is a chronic illness rider. So the big difference, guys, there's a long-term care rider and a chronic illness rider. They work exactly the same, but there's a huge difference. A long-term care rider on a hybrid product is a reimbursement product. So you must submit receipts to get that. Mm-hmm. A chronic illness rider, there's no receipts required.
Yeah.
And we can pay, and you can use the money for anything that you'd like. So once we give you a benefit of, let's say, $10,000 a month and you only have two, we'll still give you the 10. No, you won't be taxed. No, you won't be audited. No, we're not going to cancel the policy. If you had a long-term care rider, we would say, sorry, I can only give you two because your receipts are two. So me personally, I have an IUL with a chronic illness. I have the, that AAS version because, when I need long-term care, I'd like the full benefit coming in. I'd like my family to decide how to use that without the insurance company asking them to justify that, right? So that's another big point that you want to make to clients. If you have the choices, and you definitely have the choices at Experior because you have product providers that offer both. So I would tell you this, take a hard look at the chronic piece compared to the long-term care piece. And then more importantly, I want you to make that decision because you have to believe in what you sell.
Absolutely.
And more importantly, I use this expression. I use this with clients. I said, I like to eat my own cooking. Because when the client says, well, what do you have? Right?
Yeah.
Always be prepared for that. And if you start going like this, well, that's not a good sign. So your first sale should be to yourself. Shawn, I don't know about you. When I first started out of college, my manager came up to me and says, Gary, I got some good news for you. What's that? Your first sale is guaranteed. I said, all right. And I go, who is it? He goes, it's you. And I go, I got no money. He goes, well, you're going to figure it out because you're buying this policy because you're selling it. And to that day, I bought myself a whole life policy, which I thought was a lot of money and was $60 a month.
Hey, it was a lot of money back then.
It was. I didn't know how I was going to make it. As we all know, when you're working on commission and, you're going through your natural market, everything's a lot of money.
Absolutely. So just lastly, the chronic benefit,
Yes.
it's 2 out of the 6 activities of daily living is what you need to be unable to perform in order to qualify.
Yeah, yeah. So the nice thing in the U.S., whether you have a hybrid product that has chronic or long-term care, or you have a traditional one, the definition of long-term care is uniform,
Okay.
which I love. We're 2 of 6 activities of daily living that will last more than 90 days, certified by a medical professional. So it's
So it
beautiful
doesn't
when
have to
you
be
can.
permanent,
It
just
does
more than
not.
90 days.
But Shawn, that's an excellent point. A while ago, there was, and we were one of them too. There was a permanency requirement in a lot of these products. We removed that. A lot of it had to do with IRS tax code.
Hmm.
There may be some products out there with carriers that still have that permanency. Um, don't if don't go down that route. But that's an excellent point because the majority of us have removed that from our language.
Okay.
And it's really hard, like for permanent, right? Because let's say something lasts a year or 2 years, that's a tremendous financial impact.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about 6 figures.
Yeah.
So, and please, you don't have. There's better options out there for your clients. But thank you for bringing that up.
Absolutely. No, my pleasure. Was there anything else you wanted to add before we wrap things up?
No, like guys, I want to thank you. If you've made it this far into this audio, I want to thank you because I don't want to be a hypocrite. I probably wouldn't have made it this far listening to myself. So I do want to thank you because we're getting towards that hour mark, and I'm about to shut up and hand it back to Shawn. But thank you for the opportunity.
Well, Gary, thank you for your support. You guys at Corebridge have been great. You in particular have been great. We appreciated your support at our convention. And we look forward to continuing to work with you. To everybody else, thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate your support. And we look forward to seeing you soon on the road. Take care, everybody, and create a great day.
Thanks, everybody.